we have a guy in the Oval Office that at best, the best interpretation of him, he's anti-American. I'm beginning to come to the conclusion that he actually hates the country.
Yeah.
Not that he's, it's the only thing that in my mind, that can explain what he's doing.
Hello and welcome to the Bulwark Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Miller. It is becoming a Mardi Gras tradition. I'm here today on this Mardi Gras morning with the Raging Cajun himself, James Carville, former veteran Democratic strategist, co-host of the Politics War Room podcast. He's also a competitor in the YouTube space. You've had some YouTube videos going mega viral lately, man. How you doing? Happy Carnival.
Well, thank you. Of course, we love Carnival down here. One of the things that cracks me up is people think it's a tourist event. Where Tim Miller and James Carville go to Carnival, this is 98% of the people are within a 3-hour radius of New Orleans. It's the most organic local thing that exists.
I got to tell you, there were things I didn't even know about till I moved here as a transplant, and there are whole parades, and some of my favorite events are things that nobody even knows about. So you can DM me if you want to know the secret for next year. But I do have one little. There's one. There's politics in the way of kind of good fun, good spirited teasing of politicians that you have during Carnival season. There's not a ton of politics, which is nice. It's a nice reason to be down here. One thing that accidentally overlapped into politics last night, the Orpheus parade, one of my favorites. I was there with my daughter till way too late last night. Beautiful floats. Harry Connick Jr. started it. Bianca Del Rio, from Drag Race, was the queen of the parade. But they also had cyber trucks. And every time one of those things came by, those guys were getting pelted with beads. I felt bad for the Cybertruck guys. They were getting booed and pelted with beads. So I don't know that Elon's popularity was too high down at Carnival.
I didn't realize that. I just love Harry Connick Jr. And that parade is so good. And to have, I'm so naive. I thought RuPaul's Drag Race was actually about drag racing. Two guys lined up in a car.
No.
And my two daughters love drag.
Yeah.
I mean, they know I went on some big drag person had a podcast. I could have been on, I don't know, Taylor Swift's podcast, and they would not be any more impressed. But it was fun. It was great. And that's what you love about Mardi Gras.
It was wonderful. We had a good time. All right, we got to do a little politicking. You've been pushing in some of your interviews recently the idea that Trump will collapse. And for some people, it's like, okay, this is resistance nonsense. This is spin. This is bullshit. But here we are, just a few days after you're saying it. This morning as we tape, the market is down. Looks like another 600 points. The Dow is down right now, and we'll see what happens the rest of the day. It was down about 1.5% yesterday as well. Very negative response to the tariffs. It's a shit show in Europe. And I don't know. Things look pretty collapse adjacent, I guess. We're not there yet, but how do you assess things?
Well, I think it's happening. If anything, it's happening somewhat quicker than I anticipated. But let me tell you a real faulty line of thinking, and this is more true of Democrats and people on the left. Something must be done. This is something, ergo, let's do it. Okay? Sure. You just can't, James, are you sitting here, we just got us here and tell you we got to do nothing? All right, so we're going to do something. Remember when you studied the Bolshevik Revolution, it was, what is to be done? Okay? Yeah, ruin the whole goddamn world, But what I'm trying to do is the impulse against just charging ahead with a party brand that's frankly in decline. I would say it's in crisis. You have a chance to build it up. And by the way, this is a war that's not going to be culminated in the short. The first major battle is going to be the first Tuesday in November of 2026. Yeah. So let's leave the light brigade in reserve right now. I'm not saying we shouldn't use it, okay? But let that not be our first thing. And so that's my rationale. Is I just want to tell people, yeah, we got to do something, but we got to do something smart that has a long-term plan, and that's what's behind this.
All right, let's talk about it. I hate leading off the podcast with maybe a slight disagreement. We can hash it out.
Sure.
So you wrote the column, and you wrote basically this: with no clear leader to voice our opposition and no control in any branch of government, it's time for Democrats to embark on the most daring political maneuver in the history of our party: roll over and play dead. Obviously, you're being a little cheeky there,
right, sure,
with that phrase. You don't literally mean that, but I guess my view is that isn't what Mitch McConnell did. That isn't what Trump did. Like when Obama got in, Mitch McConnell immediately tried to make him a failed president. When Biden got in, Trump immediately started calling him Dementia Joe and saying he was illegitimate and all that. And so I don't know why we couldn't learn a little bit from those guys.
All right, read the last paragraph of that piece. So this is a very different time. This is a time like literally no other, because we have a guy in the Oval Office that at best, the best interpretation of him, he's anti-American. I'm beginning to come to the conclusion that he actually hates the country.
Yeah.
Not that he's. It's the only thing that in my mind that can explain what he's doing. So, if we're fighting, look, when I say play, March 14th, I think is the debt limit deadline. I'm certainly not advocating playing possum then. But what I'm saying is let them, like the Japanese did to us in Okinawa. They let us come in. We eventually beat them, but God damn, what a hell of a price we paid. Yeah. What the Tsar or General Kuznetsov did in 1812. Come on in, Napoleon. You'll enjoy yourself, and then you won't enjoy yourself very much. I mean, there's a long history of what I referred to in the piece, and I got this from General Ty Sebel, who's a former chairman of the history department at the United States Military Academy at West Point. That is called tactical pause. It's actually a smart move, and I understand inclination. They didn't give Obama any quarter. They didn't give Clinton any votes. They didn't give anything. Why? That's just like Democrats. You being pussies. You're retreating. What I'm calling for in the last paragraph, I embraced Muhammad Ali's rope-a-dope strategy. Now, no one ever thought Muhammad Ali was a retreater, but he would just bounce around for the first 5 or 6 rounds, all right? And then he'd come in and frankly knock you out, all right? He didn't come out the first round just blasting away. And I understand the impulse for right now. Did you see the event with Senator Schumer and Senator Warren in front of the Treasury building?
Oh, my God, yeah.
Oh, if that doesn't scare you to death, I don't know what will. So that, in the time frame I'm talking about, is very limited. But the only way you can start this discussion is to say, let's do nothing. Let's play dead. And then everybody comes, but you know what? I was just watching Morning Joe, and like my dear friend Molly Joan Fast is like criticizing me too. I don't give a shit. I threw it out. You know what?
Yeah. I hear you. Well, let's talk about a process. I mean, I do think that there's a practical, the main practical opposition I have to it, I think, is that the Democratic voters are going to fucking revolt if they don't see something, and like you do have to. They're going to see
something. They're going to see something by the middle of March.
Yeah,
they're not going to vote until
let's talk about the middle of March. Let's talk about the middle of March, because that really is. There were 2 things I wanted to ask you about, just like tactically, like where the rubber meets the road on this strategy. Right. So you're not saying that the Democrats should bail them out in the March budget debate.
No.
What are you saying?
All right. First of all, I am convinced that the Democratic House leadership actually has a unified plan to deal with this, particularly on the debt ceiling. And I'm trying to give these guys some cover. I'm trying to say, hey, Hakeem, take your time. I got your back. I know you got a plan because any number of people have like called and said, I think we got a pretty good thing. I think the caucus is pretty unified on it, and a plan is a time to execute it. And I'm just trying to give them cover.
Yeah.
That when they come out, but the reason that the Democratic image is so low is, well, Republicans don't like it, but they never have. I don't like my own party. It lost. Why does a political party exist? It exists to win a fucking election. Well, when you lose it, I'm mad at you. Okay?
Yeah.
And we can't pacify them. They called me, and people that work for me, close friends, I'll tell you, how can you say this? This is waving a white flag in front of treason, and how can you do this to us? And I'm not saying go. I'm saying it might be mid-March before we really bring, just get our artillery in peace and then start firing. Okay, go ahead.
The Hakeem thing, I do think it's interesting. They might have a plan now. I do think that there was that they were thinking about negotiating, and like there was discussions of a negotiation and a deal. And then I think the Elon stuff happened with Doge and all the insanity of the last 2 months. And I do think something's congealing. I mean, there's just news this morning that there was a private meeting where Hakeem was asking members if they were willing to, stick with opposing Doge and opposing any Republican budget all the way to a shutdown. Yeah,
I want to interrupt you. This is something big on this. Never say Doge. Say Elon Musk Doge.
Okay.
If you do a favorability, do you feel favorable or unfavorable toward people? Say, I don't know. It's not, but once you put Musk's name on it, drops 15, 20 points. Okay.
Hence the beads getting tossed getting chucked at the Cybertruck. Elon Musk Doge. He was asking members, right? Like I had Moskowitz on to discuss this. And basically the point is even if they wanted to negotiate on a budget, you can't do it as long as Elon Musk is illegally firing people and shutting down the Veterans Affairs Department, as we were reporting on this morning in the Bulwark and all so you can't even negotiate with them until they agree that they would abide by whatever came out of the negotiation. As such, the question is, will the caucus hold together and not vote on anything? And it seems like the answer is yes, which is encouraging, actually.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has to be convinced at the moment to end. Where they might end up is just really short-term status quo.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll give you 30 days status quo and then come back after 30 days. That's a real possibility to say, hey, we want to look reasonable, given the perilous nature of the economy right now. I'll tell you a story. Roger Altman is a close friend of mine. He had Evercore, a big corporate consulting firm probably in the world.
Yeah.
He was deputy treasury secretary. And he was talking about growth, and I said, actually, the Atlanta Fed says we have negative growth in the first quarter. He said, well, I don't believe that. Then he texted me back and said, Mark Zandi says it's going to come in at 1.2%. I said, I'll take the under one for a steak dinner in Manhattan. And he said, I'm not taking that bet. But but so when you have which seems to be a real possibility that by the middle of March we'll have a real crisis in this country, certainly a crisis in the markets. And if you said, well, we can give them 30 days. I'd rather make a bad deal for a month than a pretty good deal for 6 months.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not interested in any 6-month deals, but we'll talk about it once we see what comes.
Right. We'll see what comes.
I want to get back to the shitty economy, but just one more tactical question on the Democrats before we do. Because tonight is an example, right? There's this address to Congress. And there were two notes I saw in the news this morning, and one of them made me think, maybe James is on to something. And because it maybe is that James and AOC are on the same page on one thing. AOC's view was, I think maybe I should just skip the speech tonight. Trump relies on spectacle, she said. She feels uncomfortable legitimizing what he's doing. I'll just watch it on TV. There's some other Democrats who told Axios they're planning to disrupt the speech using noisemakers and hand clappers and eggs and signs. And that was I just imagining that image in my head made me think, I maybe I actually want them to do less. Maybe AOC is on the right page here. Go home, tweet about it. Let him make an ass of himself. Where are you?
First of all, I think she's smart. I've been going out of my way to say she has really good staff work. She's very well prepared in committee. She's a very good communicator.
Yeah,
I think that she's a savvy operator. She has her own base. She has her own thing. I think she, but as opposed to some of these people, I respect her talent. I respect her abilities. I think she's right. And I think bringing out, look, this moment, I'm speaking to the House Democratic Caucus a week from Thursday.
Okay.
If you view this like I do, this is not, I don't like the Iraq War, so I'm going to be against it, okay? This is a moment where the whole country could go under. I mean, literally, we had an inflection point. And so what I'm going to suggest that they do is treat it like that. No speeches and cadence, no groups of threes, no contrast and pairs, no if not us, who, if not now, when we stand on the precipice, the depth of the abyss faces us. Act very, very determined and very serious. Rise to the moment. And of course, rising to the moment means that you fight effectively and cleverly. But I'm not in the hoo-ha cock. Oh, God damn it. Let's go. We're going. We're charging. We're going to walk out. We're going to come in with whoopee cushions and whatever else you can think of. No, don't do that.
All right. I want to go back to the whole country could collapse, which is something you said, which is like, you feel crazy sometimes. You feel like an alarmist when you're saying stuff like this, but I just look across all of the variables of what you're seeing with the tariffs and the trade wars, what you're seeing with the corruption and the grift, what you're seeing with the austerity, the inflation, Trump maybe going to bully the Fed. Scott Bessent's out this morning talking about how they need to lower rates, which is also inflationary. And on top of that, we'll get to in segment 2, all the Ukraine stuff. It does feel unbelievably tenuous, right? Like we're at the beginning stages of something that could go very, very bad.
Yes, right? Of course. Yeah, it is. And you have these tariffs of which, even if you just think about them, how could they be a good idea? Some people say, well, we had a tariff in the early 80s to save the American car industry. It was pretty limited. So you have the tariffs against Mexico. Well, Mexico, if you want to send Ford assembles a plant in Mexico and they send wheels from the the Dallas area plant, do they have to pay 20% for the steering wheel to cross the? I don't know. And then when it comes back, I have no idea. The head explodes. Right. And then when you put on top of this the possibility of a default, it's real dangerous. Now, what I would say about interest rates, actually, the 10-year the yield on a 10-year treasury is going down, but don't understand why that's happening. Investors have no confidence that the economy is going to grow any in the next 10 years because of this. So, in one sense, you might. You know what? The easiest way to kill inflation and to get low interest rates is start a goddamn depression. Okay. Yeah, that'll handle the problem pretty quickly and effectively.
Oh my God!
I mean, think about it. It's ugly. It's really ugly.
It's hard being right, James. Well, in case you're wondering if we've got the best and brightest at the tiller here as we face these problems, nobody talks about Ag Secretary Brooke Rollins. We're going like so it's like maybe you wonder, oh, I know that Hegseth's a clown. I know that some of these other people are clowns. Maybe some of the other people I don't know are better. Well, here's the Agriculture Secretary talking about how she thinks people should deal with high egg prices on Fox Business.
I think the silver lining in all of this is how do we, in our backyards, we've got chickens too in our backyard, how do we solve for something like this? And people are sort of looking around thinking, wow, well, maybe I could get a chicken in my backyard. And it's awesome. I agree with you.
Yeah, I think everyone who isn't a farmer right now wants to be. So you're in the right department, Brooke.
Maybe everybody could just start growing a little farm in their backyard, a
Oh,
little
of
chicken.
course. Let me tell you how you can expand that program. Okay? You get you some chickens and you can't afford health care. Bring it as barter to see your doctor. Says, hey, I'll give you 10 chickens if you take my blood pressure. Okay? Right? The possibilities of backyard chicken farming are they're boundless. They're unbelievable. They actually said that. I'm so glad you picked that up. Like, she said, no, I didn't hear the Secretary of Agriculture say, well, you could grow chickens in your backyard. She actually said it. I want you to.
Everybody should get them. Yeah, if we cut the Medicaid, you're right. Maybe some bartering. I don't know if it helps short term for people on the egg prices right now, and it's going to take a little while. You think the Agriculture Secretary would have some thoughts about, like, the chickens just don't start producing eggs, immediately. There are a lot of problems with it. Other people have jobs. Working people have jobs.
Yeah, the problem, too, is if everybody went out and bought a chicken at the same time, the chicken would become more expensive than the egg, okay? And that's something that we need to mull over, okay? Because if you got to pay a lot for a chicken, then the egg becomes more expensive, because I don't think you can have an egg without a chicken, okay? People have been thinking about this since time immemorial. What is it, the chicken or the egg? So if you want to if everybody wanted to put chickens in the backyard, there'd be a tremendous demand for chickens, which would cause the price of chickens to go up. Now, you would have more eggs, which maybe would cause the price of eggs to go down. If I was an economics teacher, I could give an exam on this.
The supply, these guys don't seem to really adhere to the supply and demand ethos. It's not your old school Republicans. This isn't Adam Smith here. This is Donald Trump picking winners and losers. I mean, have you been following the crypto thing? They're going to buy a strategic reserve of Bitcoin and Ethereum with our money.
Yes. And what it's going to do is going to make the crypto go up for a short period of time, of which they all going to cash in. And one of the reasons I would always ask people, look, I don't know what this shit is. I ain't buying it, but could it be like what the housing market did in 2008? Could this thing bring the whole fucking thing down? And people say, no, not really. The risk is, now we are assuming the risk. Yes. Okay, so if you want to go buy something that ain't worth the shit, or you think it's worth the shit, and I don't have a problem with that so much. But now you want me, no. And people have to understand that. And if they're throwing fucking beads at the Cybertruck, you can imagine where they're going to be in 2
Maybe
months.
We need a strategic reserve of Mardi Gras beads. Maybe that's what we need a strategic reserve of. We should be investing in kind of the glass beads. The rare beads, the value might go up.
I did a chart on the value of a carnival bead. So it's in your hand. You're on the float. Yeah. It reaches its peak value as it reaches the top of a curve, right?
And
the apex. And once it gets in your hand, it's not worth the shit. But 4 feet before it gets in your hand, it's trash. Okay. But at one period, when that carnival bead is, I think you call it the apex. I don't know what the right word is, but it's right there. Its value is infinitely more it is when it's your hand or when it falls on the ground, because no one's going to stoop down and pick one up.
Yeah, that's that. I think there's something to that, and then maybe there's a parallel there to the crypto situation. I just your point about the systemic risk, right? It was like one thing when this was all happening on the blockchain, like, and outside, and people are putting money in it. They're getting, like, that's one thing. Once the big institutional banks, start including it in their system, and then once the fucking federal government starts investing in it, it becomes a massive structural risk. It's a really good point.
It's not my problem that they're loaning money to somebody that makes $9 an hour that has 6 mortgages. Well, if you want to do that, you lose your money. I don't give a shit. But wait a minute, I didn't realize that you had all of these CDOs and you had these tranches, and oh my God. And then you brought the whole shit and boodle down with you. That's what they do. Now they're putting this at a point of infection. Now, you have to be an economist to see how this could end up.
All right, I've got two more things for you. One serious and one maybe serious. We'll see.
Okay.
The Virginia Govs race is coming up. It's not really. It's coming up in November. We got a few months ahead. But I did notice in your New York Times piece, you called it one of the most important inflection points coming up. And so this is kind of your wheelhouse, right?
Sure.
So I just wanted to let you roll on it.
There's a site called Predicted where you can actually bet on the outcome of an election. They limited it aside. Whatever the odds are, take the Democrats in the Virginia governor's race. All right. And if you can get over 5 or even over 7, take it. So, James, what do you say? Well, first of all, history argues that the Virginia governor's race follows the presidential race, with the exception of Terry in 2013. It always goes to the out party. Secondly, let's try to estimate the turnout among federal employees, their dependents, okay, the people, the dry cleaner in Arlington,
sure.
All right, the landscaper, all right, in Loudoun County, multiply all of that and try to figure out what that's going to mean. I'll tell you what it's going to mean. High Democratic turnout, particularly in Northern Virginia. Like, not high, astronomically high. Yeah. We're not going to lose that. We're not going to lose that.
The last one, you keep mentioning that you think Donald Trump has syphilis.
Okay.
And we talked about it once. And I got to ask, do you really think he has syphilis, or do you think is this a bit?
It's 70% a bit. Okay, 30% the possibility. But there's something I intentionally held this off.
Okay.
In the hopes that you would ask me about.
Great.
On January the 17th, 2017, Keith Schiller and 2 other goons broke into the office of Dr. Bornstein, who was the GI specialist who was Trump's internist. I mean, I don't know what that means, and confiscated Trump's health records. We have never seen those health records. Now, maybe there's something in there a little more significant than an enlarged prostate. All right. I'm saying that causes me great suspicion. Why would you send people in to confiscate your own health records? And Bornstein said, I felt violated. I mean, he's deceased now. So if it's 30%, which I think we know he has unprotected sex with people who've had other partners. That's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gross.
So
to think about
gross. And
people would want to do that with him.
We do know that he had red splotches on his hand. I've had 2.2 million hits and probably 26,000 comments.
Yeah.
I must be 50 of them from doctors. And they're kind of.
I mean, you're getting out there. Do you ever have any splotches on your hands? You ever getting any weird splotches?
No.
No.
Well, they say if you masturbate too much, you can get hairs between your fingers. It's like, I think I need a shot. I need a haircut. I need a haircut.
I'm still clear. That's good news.
Yeah.
All right. Well, something's happening, is what you're saying. You think something's happening, and then
something
that's
is. But you got to throw something has to explain what happened. Okay, this just didn't. And what I said in the piece. You say, well, so-and-so dropped dead of a heart attack. No one here, he ever had any symptoms. Generally, that's not the case. Generally, you disregarded something. What happened there was such a meltdown. It was like a much more serious equivalent than what happened to President Biden on June 27th, 2024. This was a significant deterioration, even by Trumpian standards. So we ask ourselves, why? And the fact that given everything about him, that there's some mental issue, some mental, physical issue that's driving this behavior, I don't think you can discount it. I really don't. I don't either, James. He's always been crazy, but this was on the other side of even if he's always been crazy.
I mean, he was shouting about shit in the White House like he was a deranged comment section monster. It was very strange behavior for a president. James Carville, it's not a Mardi Gras unless you're talking to James Carville about masturbation and relative bead value after the toss. And so I hope everybody enjoyed it. I appreciate you very much, James.
Thank you, man. I'll see you next Mardi Gras.